former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Prime Minister Bennett, thanks for joining us. So the U.S. National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, is saying that an enduring ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, which would include hostage release, is, quote, the only credible path forward for returning the remaining hostages. And according to polling, a majority of the Israeli people agree. Do you?
Well, the Israeli government has agreed to a hostage deal, the hostage deal that President Biden had put forward, and we're waiting for Hamas.
We should note in the 8 months since the war started, the IDF has rescued 7 hostages. They accidentally killed 3 hostages. More than 100 are still being held captive. This mission, which thankfully turned out well in terms of the 4 rescued hostages, it took weeks of planning and training. And as we know, there were many innocent Palestinian lives lost. Realistically, isn't a ceasefire, not just a hostage deal, but a ceasefire, really the best possible way to get the hostages home?
Well, as I said, the commander of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, is not going ahead with the deal because he doesn't feel enough pressure on him. He will feel pressure when tanks come to kill him and his leadership, the folks around him. And that's why we have to pursue that as quickly as possible. Right now, we don't have enough leverage on him because he sees that we're being stopped all day. And this whole war is being prosecuted only half-heartedly. That's why the best way to end this war is for him to understand that his end is nearing. And only then I think we can reach the deal.
What is your view of the criticism that this hostage rescue saved 4 innocent Israelis, but also cost countless lives of innocent Palestinian civilians?
My response is simple. Don't invade Israel and kidnap hundreds of citizens from their beds, including children, moms, dads, and then expect that we'll come in dancing ballet and with flowers to get our people back. We sent our best force, the Amam Special Forces unit, in to release these hostages. They were held, by the way, not by someone who's considered Hamas, but by an Al Jazeera reporter whose name is Abdallah al-Jamal. So according to the Hamas and the Gazans, this is a civilian. But do you consider him a civilian? A guy who's holding against their will civilian hostages for 8 months? So I have to say this is a ridiculous argument, a ridiculous reprimandment. I am proud of what we did, and we would do it again and again if we could.
So let me ask you about Abdallah al-Jamal. Al Jazeera denies that he worked for them as anything other than a freelancer, or I think he wrote an op-ed or something like that, although he is on the Al Jazeera website, so I don't know what the truth is there. He was definitely a journalist. He wrote an article for the Palestinian Chronicle within the last few months. But we in the U.S. media are waiting for proof that he was holding these hostages captive. I don't think there's any question that he was a journalist, but have you seen evidence that he was holding them captive, and can you press the Israeli government to share that evidence?
I assume at a certain point the government will share. We don't want to burn our sources, but it's funny because to hear Al Jazeera deny that he's a reporter when his name is on their website as a reporter is ridiculous. Al Jazeera and Qatar are terror organizations, a terror state and a terror organization. The fact that Al Jazeera still calls itself a news outlet is ridiculous. Their hands are in blood. And this is not the first time that Al Jazeera reporters are part of Hamas. We've discovered many additional cases. You have to understand, we are fighting a population that unfortunately massively supports Hamas. We see in every other home, under beds of children, we see peers, we see RPGs. So this is a mix of civilians and a terror group But I would love to have been able to say that the civilians are hijacked by Hamas. But the reality is they elected Hamas, they support Hamas, and they support, by and large, this massacre. Not every one of them, but most of them.
So when we spoke last week, you told me that if Benny Gantz left the Netanyahu government, the Netanyahu government would lose legitimacy both domestically and internationally. How big a blow is his resignation, and when will there be new elections, if at all?
I don't know when there'll be new elections. We have a fairly complex methodology to bring about elections. I will say that, yeah, it is a blow to the government. And Benny Gantz, yesterday in his announcement, he said that he believes that Netanyahu puts his own interest above the country's interest, etc. This certainly does not provide a backwind for the war. It's something we're going to have to deal with in Israel. It's my belief that the sooner we can go to elections and get, let's say, the backing of the Israeli people yet again, the better off we are.
Naftali Bennett, former Prime Minister of Israel, thanks so much. Appreciate it.